Okay, people, today I'm going to use my leg, knee, and some branch trimmer that I used to take care of my gardenias. Well, today I'm going to talk about passwords. I think I believe I've touched this before, but I want to thoroughly uh, go into passwords. Yes, what we used to go in to log into our computers or our applications, etc. Because even our passwords kind of describe who we are. I'm chewing gum, so if I sound like an idiot, that's pretty much me. Again, a password usually describes, most people usually in their passwords have a name of their kids or their dog, their favorite food sometimes. Um, Something that just brings, I guess, something back to mind. Now, the reason why I'm talking about passwords, again, in relation to workplace passwords, because also, excuse me, it is a tell. It does say a lot about us. I remember many times when I had to work on somebody's computer, and that's not just here in Puerto Rico, the U.S. District Court and Probation of Puerto Rico, even in other places I worked before. Uh, Something I always notice is that when I would tell the user to either give me their password or I'll change their password so I can log in and work on their computer. Most people would just have, give me their password or write it down and give it to me, or to just say it out or text it to me, etc. And it was kind of cute to always see people's, kids' names or their dogs' names or their, whatever, their pets, their cats. Um, Maybe a favorite movie, whatever. But it was also very telling, especially because again, this has nothing to do with favoring men over women or women over men or any other group. But one thing I can assure you is that anytime a guy gave me a password, it was usually related to cars or their kids. Women, on the other hand, what surprised me about women, because again, I've never, ever, ever gotten a password from a guy that was a curse word or inappropriate, um, potentially, offensive, etc. Never. But I have gotten many females, which again, this is a big tell. This basically tells you who you are or your form of thinking, of being, existing, etc. But not just women. I have to also include the LGBTQ community as always. Let's be inclusive here. Let's not just be inclusive in the good things, let's also be inclusive when they do bad things. But I do remember once again, many, many females give me passwords that were inappropriate, that were cursing or borderline cursing or hanky panky type combination of words. And I would laugh most of the time. Now, there were some others that would say, no, I can't give you my password. That password is so ugly. If I give it to you, you're going to think bad of me. And they would change it immediately or tell me to change it because they would just laugh before saying that. Of course, no, if I give you my password, you're going to think the worst of me. Again, a huge tell. Huge, huge tell. Now, why am I saying this? Why am I emphasizing this? Again, I do know that I am a broken record, but this says a lot about the female psyche. The same females that society pretends that are innocent creatures when they're not. That's again my point. There's no innocence in the majority of the women that I have encountered at the workplace. There's still a lot of good women out there, a lot of decent women, no doubt about that. But overwhelmingly, the naughty passwords came from women. The same women that the Me Too movement wants to protect. I will repeat that to the day I die. So once again, this goes as a message slash warning slash eye opener to HR, Me Too, and all these organizations that are always painting men as bad and and, and nasty and naughty and whatever. Which hey, many are. I'm not denying that. Many are. I mean, we men are attracted by the opposite sex, which is 100% natural. But for some reason in the West, it's become bad for a man to actually be attracted to women. But hey, if they see two gay people attracted, oh, that's beautiful, and they applaud it and they celebrate it. Or two women. But a guy wanting a female, that is so wrong. Now, a female could want a guy, and that's empowering. But if a guy wants the same thing towards a woman, it's bad, evil, etc. But again, this is the workplace I've worked for, not just here in U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico, the federal court system, but in other places. I remember in West Palm Beach, Florida, also the courthouse there, the state court, and other areas. But primarily, I mean, I just have to be honest, primarily here in Puerto Rico, women's passwords are, you know, have been, uh, in many, many cases, horrendous. Not once have I encountered a guy with a bad password. Not once. Of course, I'm not saying that men are saints. It's just a tell. It's a detail that should be brought up to mind as, again, describing the females that we protect because apparently they're innocent um, in some kind of fantasy world when they're not. But now let's include the gay community because I do remember, and in this situation, I do have a witness. I remember Mrs. LGBTQ. I don't want to mention her name. You guys have already heard it in the past. On one occasion, I needed her password. I was in yellow zone in my usual cubicle. I was sitting down and I told her, "Hey, in order for me to log in as you, should I change your password or are you going to give me your password?" Well, little Miss LGBTQ, again, I have nothing against them. I don't care what you do in the privacy of your bedroom. But it does become disturbing, like I've said before, when you have rights that the rest of us don't. In this occasion, she shouted out her password in Yellow Zone, and I think she did it with the intent to I don't know, to irritate or to be the center of attention because her password was horrendous. And I know her password was something in the area of Satan 666 something. I can't remember. And I'm like, and then when she blurted out, she had this smirk on her face, which, like, again, sometimes I think they create these passwords to like provoke or I don't know, to try to be the center of attention because it's a very strong word to those that believe in God, to those that believe in Christianity, etc. Because again, these are words they are offensive, especially especially to very Orthodox Christians. That is very, you know, it's an uncomfortable um, password. Let's just be honest here. A little disgusting in my point of view, but hey, I didn't make a big deal out of it. It, I did find it a little disturbing for anybody to have a password of that type, but hey, I respect other people's opinion. Unfortunately, we don't get that in return. Men don't get that in return, whether you're masculine man, whether you're an atheist, whether you're Christian, whatever, we don't get that in return. Nobody understands us, nobody cares about us, there's no empathy for us, there's no understanding. We can never be offended. We're just supposed to take it because it's coming from a protected person of those protected groups. Well, I wrote down the password, she walks away, and then like 15 minutes later, who shows up? My good friend Belinda. She shows up And she tells me, "Oh my God, I overheard the word, the password she just shouted out to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a pretty strong password." He's like, "Yeah, that's a disturbing password." Again, I'm paraphrasing here. That's a bit of a disturbing password. And I was frank with her, and I'm like, "Well, you know how these people are." And I was referring to, yeah, to that group of people, the alphabet group. Let's just call it that, the alphabet group. Because again, what if let's again role play here again. Let's do the role play thing that sometimes I like to do. What if I asked a Christian, a girl, that question, "Hey, what's your password?" And she yelled out something like, "All alphabet people, 1, 2, 3, hell," or the number two and hell. Alphabet or gay two. Hell. Would that be offensive? Think, think, people. Again, think for yourselves. Don't think for those that give you these stupid trainings that only, again, that only focus on one side, that are one-sided, that are, it's bigotry into the other in the other direction. Let's just put it that way. But if a Christian girl or boy will yell out the password, um, alphabets number two at hell, of course the alphabet people will get offended. Of course the LGBTQ people will get offended. Of course the gay community will get offended. Oh, but they could do it. Isn't that amazing? They could do that out loud, nothing. And Belinda heard it. She's a witness to this. That's the modern work environment. At least at U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico here, the federal court system in Puerto Rico here in Chardon. That's the work environment. That's, again, this is why I like to recall all of these little pieces of a bigger puzzle, that clearly shows us the toxicity of the workplace. But guess what? Judge Arias and HR, they only focus on certain tiny, very tiny things and get rid of those people. Well, in my case, it was tiny. I can't speak for all the other guys that actually did some did worse. Let's just put it that way. But again, uh, when it comes to and hey, Donald Trump, if you're out there listening, or JD Vance, if you're listening, you might want to investigate this since you guys are doing so much investigation. You guys are so pro transparency. You guys are so anti corruption and so anti DEI. And so, again, you guys tend to push more towards the conservative voter, which put you into power. You might want to investigate all these videos. You might want to analyze them and look into them. Have another Doge, you know, assigned, and not just in Puerto Rico, nationwide. Because this is something I believe many people are living nowadays. Many people. And again, I don't have anything against this community as a community because the privacy of your own home should stay at the privacy of your own home. But you're bringing it to work, and that's where I have a problem with it. You're bringing it to work, you're flaunting it in front of everybody else because you know you're a protected group, and you literally make other people uncomfortable. Literally. And that's not fair. That's not fair because the workplace is not your workplace. The workplace is not a female's workplace or a gay's workplace, and it's not either a man's workplace either. It's all of us. But for some strange reason, only men get hit very hard, not women, and much less the gay community. No. So again, men from the 1920s on, we let women into the workplace, and now women are taking over to the point that a man can't even breathe next to her because it's accusation time. She concludes he did that because of this or that, or the perception is totally distorted in her little mind. But once again, passwords at work, in my experience, have been highly, and I know this is technically a security breach, when somebody gives me the password, but that's something I always mentioned. Hey, either you give me your password or I'll change it. Most people did not want their passwords to be changed, so they just would either write it down, text it to me, or tell me out loud. And well, this alphabet group girl, since because again, who shouts out their password out loud unless they're looking for attention, unless they're looking to make Christians uncomfortable? It was done on purpose. Come on. Nobody yells out their password to the point that Belinda heard it. Again, if anybody really wants to investigate this, useless HR, if you guys really want to sit down with Belinda and ask her, she's going to say, yes, Jose is telling the truth. And she will tell you who shouted out that password. And again, I don't want anybody to get fired. I just want you guys to realize how toxic that workplace is. But you guys have a tendency of hitting men the hardest, in my case, over just simple comments that never really hurt anybody. And if anybody might even suggest that I offended them or made them feel uncomfortable, well, that person, Veronica, um, no, not when you open up your anus behind courtroom two and then make believe it's a little game. No, no. Not when you again send me little hearts, um, hiss at me, wink at me. No, no. So again, that to the side because I'm just sick of the fact that attention-seeking creatures, you know, stoop to disgusting levels just to be a victim. When again, the real victim in this situation has been me, and in many others, as I've mentioned before in many of my other videos. But again, these passwords are tells. These passwords tell you what type of women I've worked with, what type of women Western society is breeding, which are disgusting. Disgusting, and they know it. They know it, but they have to play the game of what's politically correct, popular, what's the trend of ideologies. They have to follow that. So again, the stupidity of wokeness and feminism and Me Too, all that garbage combined into one, of course, that's the perfect recipe to get rid of men for almost any little thing. But let's overlook every bad thing a female does. No, no, again, I don't believe that. So these passwords show clearly how promiscuous these women are at U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico, including once again Mrs. LGBTQ. The soup, the alphabet soup. Again, that password is very uncalled for, especially yelling it out loud with a smirk on your face. That is you seeking attention and trying to see if who might get offended because you don't give a damn. Why? Because hey, you're part of a protected group. But again, if a Christian yelled out, "Hey, alphabet or gay to capital G at to hell," oh yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will get offended, from your community. But hey, we have a double standard in this place that is a court system and supposedly represents justice, but it doesn't. It really doesn't. They completely ignore the Constitution, they ignore their canons whenever convenient, and they target you when they don't like you. But they tend to cover up, especially females, but sometimes even guys in very high places. And not to mention the alphabet soup people, which again, I have nothing against you guys personally, but when you use language that hurts me and I have to deal with it and put up with it and overlook it, well, you would think the favor would be returned, but no, no, not at all. Again, that is the workplace in today's modern Western world. So, guys, keep away from women. You know, just treat them uh, very delicately from a good distance and watch your back. You don't want your career to be altered because narcissistic creatures are out there knowing, based on the latest training, that they have the upper hand, and all we have to do is just blame men for everything. Well, that's my video for passwords.